Hey guys, welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to be covering Google's new helpful content update. So I've put together a quick little presentation for you to cover what you need to know, how to find out if your content is helpful or not, and a few of my personal opinions on the matter. So let's get on with this presentation. So what we have here is a quick little presentation that will be covering a few insights and explanations about what it is and what is so significant about this update. So let's get to it. Is this actually helpful? So to give you guys a bit of a quick lowdown, if you've been in the SEO industry for a while, such as myself, I've been in the industry for almost 10 years now. This isn't necessarily something new. A lot of people in the SEO community and Google themselves have been preaching for a very long time to create content for users and not search engines. So this is primarily that, but in a much more wider manner, because now it's in a continuous update that'll be rolling out and it will be permanently switched on, which I'll explain in just a moment by what I mean. So let me just minimize my screen here. What's the overview? August 18th, Google pretty much announced that they are launching an update which will be called the helpful content update. This will be an always running site signal, so it's not a once-off algorithm update or anything. Switches on and whoever doesn't have helpful content at the time has negative impacts on their rankings. This will be continuous. This is something similar that brings me back to previous algorithms like Penguin, for example. Penguin, I think it was at 4.0 at this stage, where it's just continuously going on in the background. The main aim, once again, is to make Google's search engine a better place for users. Google has always wanted to provide the best search engine results for users, to provide the best quality of information, so that more people simply come back to the search engine, and Google makes more money from ad revenue and etc. So this is kind of a two-pronged approach. It's smart. It's basically ensuring that us as SEOs and webmasters provide good content, and for them it helps their search engine and essentially their product or service to become much better from that perspective of cleaning it up, so to speak. So essentially, just having a quick look here. So Google is going to be tackling content that it deems to be unhelpful. So what's really interesting for you to note is that this will be rolling out across English queries very soon, within this week. So this is approximately around the 25th of August as I'm shooting this video. So around this week and within the next 2 weeks, so end of August, beginning of September 2022, you're going to see this start to play out across English queries and across other language international queries over the next several weeks. So what has Google said? Google said quite a lot about this. So this is quite a lot of information to get through, and I'm just minimizing my screen here just to make it a bit easier. So this is things that Google is basically looking out for that makes content necessarily not really helpful, which is the content primarily used to attract people rather than search engines. At the same time, if it's more designed to attract search engines, that's not necessarily a good thing, trying to game the system. The next point is, are you producing lots of content on different topics and hope that something may perform well in search results? What that essentially means is, are you a person of authority? So this is all coming back to topical relevance and expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. I'll touch upon this later on, but this is important things to note. Are you using automated processes? So this is another thing to consider. So using things such as artificial technologies, natural language processing tools to create a lot of your content. Yes or no? Let me just go back for a sec. Because what's been happening, especially what we've seen with the May core algorithm update, is a lot of websites were spinning out a whole bunch of AI generated drivel, essentially to game the system for AdSense, and Google slamming down at this. And this is also another thing to consider. Are you using these tools primarily to create your content? 100%. If you're using it, then that's a bad thing. You should be using a lot of these tools such as Jarvis AI, etc., just to give you a bit of an idea of what to create the content about, but not be essentially creating everything word for word what that tool is providing you with and just putting on your website. Are you summarizing information, or without giving much value or a unique opinion? That's really important to know, because if you're just summarizing information, not providing any unique circumstances or information that might be valuable to users, then that's not necessarily a good and useful thing. Are you writing about things simply because they're trending and not because you write about them for your existing audience? So this could be jumping on trends. Imagine if you're basically running a small business that is talking about mechanics, but you're jumping on different topics that aren't related to your industry, or you're relating things which have nothing got to do with it, or partly related, but it's not necessarily your sole core subject matter. That's not necessarily a good thing. That comes back to, once again, your topical authority. And then another really important one is, does your content leave readers feeling like they need to do a better search because they haven't got the information that they're looking for? Are they satisfied with that information that you've provided? So that could be a user behavior metric, such as going on the page from the search results, clicking through, not spending too much time in bouncing off the website. So that's something to consider when you're looking to analytics. Are you writing it for word count? Uh, this is really big because back in the day, there were many studies suggesting this is when SEO was in a bit of a different old school phase where word count was everything, content was king. And I think Google's trying to really cut back on that. And I think it's really important to note, because there are several tools and several studies out there more recently that have come out to suggest that word count isn't everything. Good example could be Surfer SEO. If you actually search up queries in Surfer's tool, you can actually see that word count isn't necessarily relevant as much. It's necessarily more the intent. Are you answering the question that people are searching for? People don't want long essays if it's a short query. For example, if I'm looking for a recipe on how to do brownies, I don't want 1,000-word essay about it. I just want to get to the point and find information that's useful for me. And I think a lot of other people have been frustrated with these similar results over time, where they're looking for something, but because of this arbitrary word count thing that's been popping up over the last few years, people have just been absolutely trying to increase the content levels, and in certain queries it's not relevant. I think is absolutely quite a negative thing from that perspective. So I'm glad that Google's starting to clamp down on this a little bit more. Another important thing, going back to expertise, authority, and trust, is, did you decide to enter a niche topic area without real expertise, but you did it just because for the search traffic? So this is what a lot of shady kind of agencies do, and a lot of shady websites that try to gain traffic, is they jump into areas that have a lot of search volume or demand, but not really expertise. Perfect example could be someone who is in health insurance, for example, and now they're going to be talking about working out, but just because that's a trend of some kind. I know that those are two very parallel examples, but there are many websites that jump onto topics where they're not relevant to talk to about. They shouldn't be covering at all. So this is something really good that a lot of these sites are going to be getting clamped down on, and I think that's great. Does your content promise to answer a question that actually has no answer, such as suggesting that there's a release date for a product, movie, or TV show when it isn't one? So this is kind of getting rid of like clickbaity titles or clickbait kind of content. This could be relating to like celebrity news, sports, the entertainment industries, and I think that's really good that Google's starting to really clamp down on this again. I know I've said that word clamp down a lot, but it's really good to see, as someone who works in SEO day in and day out for almost a decade. I'm starting to feel very thankful in a way that a lot of people have been using this to game the system, and Google's playing catch up. So the next question you'd be asking is, after seeing all of those wall of dot points, there's a few core similarities between a lot of them, and this is something I think would be really useful. And this is my recommendation: put yourself in the audience shoes and answer the following questions. Do I find this information useful? Did it satisfy my need for answering for what I'm searching for? Very important. A lot of people just churn out content, chuck on a title that's optimized for SEO, chuck on a description, but that's about it. There's definitely more to it. And this is what real SEO is about from a content perspective. It's just not trying to game the search engine here. It's doing it for the people that matter to you, the people that should be basically attributing to your bottom line, to your business, your key audience. How was the information written? Was it easy to understand? Was it also written by a professional? I'm not going to be writing anything about financial matters, for example, or legal matters, because that's not my field of expertise. I'm not an expert in that. I would be hiring a legal expert or a financial expert to cover certain topics. So you got to think to yourself, just like when you're listening to a doctor or information about health or finance, who are these information sources? How is it written? Who has written this information is very, very important, and is it easy to understand as well? So definitely consider the source of who the person is, who's the expertise that you're getting this information from. Are they a subject matter expert or not? Another thing that I would consider is, does the article or information highlight other useful resources or topics? And that kind of goes back to satisfying what I'm looking for. There's nothing better when I'm reading a topic about something and then there's internal links to go to other pages in that website or to external links that give additional value to that subject. That's very good for content and user experience. Consider that, very important. Once again, content, was it a good length? Was it too short? Wasn't it drawn out? This all depends on the intent. Once again, you got to think to yourself, not necessarily from a content length perspective, like I've banged on before, but you got to consider, is the information answering the query that the page is ranking for? Yes or no? As an example, if I'm going to look at how to decorate a bedroom, definitely I would want to have a good amount of information that covers that. We could talk about color gradients. We'll talk about warm, dark, small size, medium size, how to make rooms smaller or appear to larger. There's so many factors to look at. So definitely think of these dot points as you're going through, because I highly, highly, highly recommend looking at this information. It's very, very important. What to do if your content isn't helpful? This is big. If your content isn't helpful and you've actually known that you've been creating content just to game the system, one thing you could do is no index or 410 the pages. So 410 is just a status code that indicates to Google that the page will be gone from the index, which is great. It will be dead, it will be gone. So this is just a quick snapshot I took from Twitter. I saw someone asking John Moo about this, John Mueller, essentially saying that the update runs continuously, and if there is content that that Google does not deem to be useful, there could be some ways to factor how to deal with that situation. And definitely, this only relates to pages that are in Google's index. So if these pages of low quality aren't indexed, this update won't necessarily be affecting you. But it would be good to audit your website and really be true to yourself and figure out, is the content really helpful? Obviously, there's other factors you can consider, as in traffic, conversions, and a few other things that I've mentioned earlier in this little mini presentation. But if you want to get rid of content, definitely two approaches could be no indexing or 410 the pages. How to make content more helpful. So apart from the other areas I've talked about in the previous slide, which I'll quickly go here, is your content helpful? This is another thing you could use to team up, which is how to make your content more helpful. Does your content demonstrate first-hand experience, depth, or knowledge? So once again, that's going back to that source. Who is discussing the content? Are they the right people to be covering it? Is there any unique research or insights or perspectives that other pieces of content online do not provide? This could be a product review, for example. This could be a personal journey, example like weight loss, your weight loss journey, or it could be some type of financial or health-led situation where it's a unique perspective about what you've experienced. It could be buying experience, buying first property, etc. Demonstrating topical authority. So that kind of goes back to that first point of being an expertise, having knowledge. So is there expertise, authority, and trustworthiness on a website? Topical authority, once again, I keep talking about that. Topical authority, once again, for people who do not know, is essentially does a website talk about a similar topic over and over and over. So, example, if you're a mechanic, definitely talking about car maintenance, maybe how to purchase a car or anything around that type of matter. If you're talking about health insurance, definitely you're going to be talking about things relating to health insurance. Does that make sense? Another thing is, did the content match the user intent and SERP relevancy? So this is really big. So the user intent could be someone searching for something informational, transactional, or location driven. And your page isn't necessarily going to rank if the query you're searching for is very informational, but yours is more a location or purchase driven page. So you got to factor that in when you're looking at your SERP results. Another thing is also avoid using tools such as Jervis AI and copying exactly 100% what these AI copying tools are creating. Use it as a bit of an assistance piece just to give you an idea of what maybe you want to write about, or use it as an idea to brief actual subject matter experts, but don't just copy everything and throw it in. The main reason is because Google also has their own natural language processing tools or information such as BERT or MOM that's currently being used in search results anyway. So you're not really going to be able to game the system. So definitely don't have a strong reliance on this. My thoughts is that once again, I'm going to reiterate, Google and SEO professionals have been saying this for years. Create content for users, not search engines. So this is definitely something that I feel is timely, and I'm very happy as an SEO professional, and I think it's definitely going to improve the quality of content being created over time. And hopefully people have a longer hard thought about what they're actually creating just beforehand. So you're not creating content just for the sake of doing it. You're creating it to better your users, to give them more informative information, and also help to provide better topical relevancy for your website. It's also a method to crack down on a lot of generated content, especially websites created purely just to benefit from AdSense. It also helps demonstrate topical authority and trustworthiness. Another thing that I didn't note in here, which I think is also important to highlight, is essentially that it's also cracking down on shady agencies and individuals and professionals who only ask and want people to create blog content for the sake of doing it, just to fix and fit in a retainer. Personally, I really hate that practice if it's the only thing that they do and it's not actually benefiting or driving any sales for the business or benefiting the end users. So definitely very glad that this is coming out, and hopefully my tips have helped you out. And if you have any other questions or concerns, please put them in the comments. And if you want to read the full article, let me just go here. You can literally look up this URL, which is going to be in the comments of this video, and you can scroll through and read everything that Google's talked about overall. But once again, thank you so much for your time, and I'll be putting out some more videos. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.